The holographic display in the United Earth Defense Council chamber flickered with the image of an alien vessel that had appeared seemingly from nowhere. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading xenolinguist, studied the sleek, crystalline structure of the ship with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. 12 similar vessels had taken position around Earth's orbit in perfect geometric formation, their presence sending waves of panic through the global population. "They're broadcasting again," announced Colonel James Martinez, his fingers dancing across the neural interface of his command station. The alien transmission filled the chamber, a series of harmonics that seemed to resonate with the very atoms of the air. Sarah closed her eyes, letting the advanced AI translation matrix she'd developed process the complex patterns. After 3 days of continuous communication attempts, they were finally making progress. The aliens called themselves the Valerians, a species that had achieved interstellar travel millennia ago. Their message was simple: Earth would join their empire as a protectorate, or face immediate quarantine. "They're not asking," Sarah reported to the assembled leaders. "In their culture, offering protection is considered an absolute honor. Refusing it would be—" She paused, searching for the right words, equivalent to declaring war. General Maya Williams, her dark skin contrasting with her pristine white uniform, leaned forward. "And accepting means what exactly?" "Complete technological, cultural, and military integration into their empire. We would cease to be an independent species." The chamber erupted in measured chaos, representatives from Earth's nations engaging in heated discussions. The past decade had seen unprecedented global cooperation in the face of climate crisis and technological advancement. But this was different. This was survival. "They've given us 6 Earth hours to respond," Martins added, his expression grim. In the observation deck above the chamber, Dr. Victor Rossi, head of the Quantum Defense Initiative, watched the proceedings with unusual calm. His team had been preparing for this moment for 15 years, ever since they'd detected the first anomalous signals from deep space. The public hadn't known, of course. How could they explain the billions spent on weapons that defied conventional physics, on defense systems that bent reality itself? "Dr. Rossi," General Williams's voice came through his secure comm. "Is it ready?" Victor smiled, his fingers brushing against the quantum key in his pocket. "Project Lighthouse has been ready for 3 years, General. We just never had a reason to light it up." The next 4 hours saw the most efficient global mobilization in human history. As the Valerian ships maintained their perfect formation, humanity prepared its response. Underground bases activated worldwide, revealing vast hangars of hybrid technology that combined human ingenuity with theoretical alien physics. Quantum satellites, hidden in plain sight as weather monitoring stations, aligned themselves in an invisible web around the planet. Sarah made one final attempt at diplomacy. "Honorable Valerians," she broadcast, "humanity respectfully declines your generous offer of protection. We propose instead an alliance of equals, based on mutual respect and independent sovereignty." The response was immediate. The Valerian ships began to glow with an inner light that distorted the space around them. Their weapons, capable of reducing cities to ash, powered up in a display of overwhelming force. "They say we've chosen extinction," Sarah translated, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "They're targeting major population centers." General Williams nodded to Victor. "Light it up." Project Lighthouse activated with a whisper rather than a bang. The quantum web surrounding Earth pulsed once, invisible to conventional sensors. The Valerian ships fired their primary weapons, and nothing happened. The energy simply disappeared, absorbed into the quantum field humanity had spent years developing. In the stunned silence that followed, Victor activated the global defense network. Thousands of small autonomous units emerged from hidden facilities across the planet. Each contained a simple AI running on quantum processors, capable of predicting and countering any conventional attack. "Send the response," General Williams ordered. Sarah's message was brief, translated into perfect Valerian harmonics. You seem to have misunderstood our position. This isn't a negotiation. This is a warning. You have 6 of our hours to withdraw, or we will demonstrate why our species has survived every extinction-level event we faced. We didn't become the apex predators of our world by accepting ultimatums. The Valerian ship's perfect formation wavered for the first time. In the hours that followed, humanity revealed just a fraction of what they'd been developing in secret. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through conventional shields. AI-driven combat systems that adapted faster than any organic mind could process. And most importantly, a united human race that had spent its entire history preparing for this moment, not through deliberate planning, but through the constant drive to survive, adapt, and overcome. The Valerians had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed that a species without interstellar travel must be primitive. They hadn't understood that humanity's greatest advances came not from peaceful exploration, but from the constant pressure of survival. Every war, every disaster, every near-extinction event had forced humans to innovate, to adapt, to become stronger. As the 6-hour deadline approached, the Valerian ships remained in position, their weapons still charged but impotent. In the council chamber, Earth's leaders watched and waited. They had shocked the Valerians, but this was just the beginning. Whether it led to war or peace would depend on what happened next, but one thing was certain: humanity would never bow to threats again. The real question wasn't whether humanity would survive this encounter. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity would become once they took their first steps into interstellar space. The Valerians were about to learn why starting a war with humans was possibly the worst decision any species could make. The Valerian High Commander, Keith Thrix, watched the holographic representation of Earth with growing unease. 24 hours had passed since their ultimatum, and the humans' response had defied every strategic model. Instead of panic or submission, they had demonstrated technology that shouldn't have been possible for their development level. Analysis complete, Commander. First scientist Verlac announced, her crystalline appendages shifting nervously. The humans' quantum defense system isn't just advanced. It's elegant. They've approached faster than light physics from a completely different theoretical framework than our civilization. Thrix's outer membrane rippled with frustration. Explain. Where we mastered space travel through manipulation of gravitational fields, they appear to have focused on quantum entanglement and probability manipulation. Their defensive screen doesn't just block our weapons, it prevents the very possibility of our attack succeeding. In the depths of the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Victor Rossi and his team monitored the Valerian fleet's every movement. Project Lighthouse had exceeded even their most optimistic projections, but Victor knew better than to celebrate early. The quantum defense grid was consuming enormous amounts of power, and the Valerians were probing for weaknesses. They're adapting faster than expected, Dr. Amara Patil observed, her augmented eyes processing streams of data. Look at these energy signatures. They're trying to modify their weapons to operate on different quantum frequencies. Victor nodded. They're not stupid, just arrogant. General Williams, are the Artemis units ready? On a separate screen, General Williams stood in what appeared to be a conventional military hangar. Behind her, rows of what looked like standard space fighters sat ready for launch. Only a handful of people knew their true nature. Artemis Squadron is hot and waiting. Dr. Chen is finishing the final psychological warfare package now. Are you sure about this, Victor? Once we reveal this capability, there's no going back. Victor looked at the quantum probability projections floating above his desk. The Valerians are calling for reinforcements. We need to end this before their empire commits fully to the conflict. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to show your opponent exactly why they don't want one. Across the globe, humanity's response moved into its second phase. The Artemis units, appearing to be primitive chemical rockets to Valerian sensors, launched from multiple sites. The alien fleet tracked them with almost dismissive interest. Commander, Verlac called out, the humans are launching some form of defensive fighters. Primitive chemical propulsion. Minimal armor. No energy shielding. She paused, checking her readings. They'll never reach orbital altitude with such technology. Kithrix watched the approaching human vessels with growing suspicion. Something wasn't right. The same species that had developed quantum state defensive screens was launching technology that belonged in their industrial age. The first sign that something was wrong came when the Valerians' targeting systems failed to lock onto the approaching fighters. The second came when the primitive vessels suddenly shifted, their physical forms seeming to blur and multiply. Impossible. Verlac screamed. They're manipulating quantum probability at the macro scale. Each fighter exists in multiple states simultaneously. The Artemis units, humanity's first quantum state fighters, demonstrated exactly why Earth had focused on defensive technology for so long. Each vessel could exist in multiple probable states at once, making them effectively impossible to hit with conventional weapons. Where Valerian technology manipulated space, human technology manipulated possibility itself. Sarah Chen's voice broadcast across all frequencies, translated into perfect Valerian harmonics. Consider this a demonstration. Your weapons cannot hit what exists in multiple states simultaneously. Your shields cannot block what could materialize anywhere within their radius. You are facing a species that has turned the uncertainty principle into a weapon. The Artemis fighters danced through space, each one splitting into dozens of probability shadows. They didn't fire weapons. They didn't need to. Instead, they demonstrated complete immunity to Valerian defensive systems, passing through shields as if they didn't exist. How? Kithrix demanded. How did they develop this technology without achieving spaceflight? The answer, when it came, shook the Valerian commander to his core. Dr. Victor Rossi's voice joined the broadcast. Because we knew we weren't alone. We detected your civilization's quantum signatures decades ago. While you watched our primitive space programs, our real development happened in secret. We knew first contact was coming, and we knew it probably wouldn't be peaceful. History taught us that lesson too many times. The Artemis units pulled back, their demonstration complete. They had penetrated every defense, bypassed every shield, and proven that humanity's apparent technological inferiority was a carefully crafted illusion. You have 24 hours, General Williams announced. Withdraw your fleet and agree to diplomatic negotiations, or we will be forced to demonstrate our offensive capabilities as well. Unlike our defensive technology, those demonstrations won't be harmless. In the Quantum Defense Command Center, Victor watched the probability streams shift. The future was branching, possibilities multiplying. In most of them, the Valerians chose to negotiate. In some, they attacked in desperation. In a few, they simply fled. But in every single probability stream, one thing remained constant. Humanity had announced its presence on a galactic stage, not with a whimper, but with a demonstration of power that would reshape interstellar politics forever. The species that had evolved under the pressure of constant conflict, that had turned the very uncertainty of existence into a weapon, was ready to take its place among the stars. And the galaxy would never be the same. Aboard the Valerian flagship, first scientist Verlac reviewed the latest data with growing fascination and horror. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were learning, adapting, and evolving their technology at an unprecedented rate. Every scan of Earth revealed new quantum signatures, each more complex than the last. They're studying our technology while defending against it, she reported to Commander Kithrix. Our own sensors are becoming a liability. Every probe we send gives them more data to analyze. Kithrix's crystalline form pulsed with deep blues of concern. The reinforcement fleet was still 3 days away, but already he questioned whether even 10,000 ships would be enough. Not against what they were facing. In a secured facility beneath the Indian Ocean, Dr. Amara Patel and her team had made a breakthrough. The quantum signatures from the Valerian ships weren't just power emissions, they were fragments of their computational processes. Every alien scan was a two-way street of information. They think in crystalline matrices, Amarat explained the Global Defense Council. Their entire consciousness is structured around geometric perfection. It's why their ships maintain those precise formations. It's not just tactical, it's cultural. And we can use that against them. Dr. Sarah Chen leaned forward. You're suggesting we attack their psychology rather than their technology. Better, Amara smiled. I'm suggesting we do both simultaneously. Project Oracle launched 12 hours later, while the Artemis units had demonstrated humanity's defensive capabilities. Oracle showed what happened when human creativity was applied to offensive operations. Quantum-entangled particles, seeded throughout the Valerian fleet by earlier scans, began to resonate at frequencies that disrupted both their technology and their crystalline thought patterns. The effect was subtle at first, minor calculation errors, slight imperfections in their previously perfect formations. But to a species built on geometric precision, these small chaos elements were profoundly disturbing. They're fragmenting, Victor observed from the Quantum Defense Command Center. Their rigid command structure is breaking down under quantum uncertainty. The Valerian ships began to move erratically, their perfect formations dissolving as individual commanders struggled to maintain control of their increasingly unreliable systems. But humanity's masterstroke wasn't the technological disruption. It was what came next. Sarah Chen initiated the final phase of Project Oracle, a transmission that went directly to every Valerian crew member, bypassing their command structure through the quantum-entangled network humanity had quietly built within their fleet. We know why you fight, her message began, translated into pure crystalline harmonics. Your empire is built on perfection, on the belief that geometric order must be imposed on a chaotic universe. But you've never encountered a species that thrives in chaos before. The transmission continued, carrying with it carefully engineered quantum patterns that resonated with Valerian consciousness. Not to harm, but to illuminate. To show them something their rigid worldview had never considered: the beauty of imperfection. Through their quantum links, humanity shared images of Earth's most stunning natural formations. The irregular fractals of coastlines, the organic symmetry of shells, the controlled chaos of weather patterns. They showed how life itself emerged from the interplay of order and chaos. Your technology seeks to impose order, Sarah's message continued. Ours embraces uncertainty as a fundamental force. You try to eliminate quantum uncertainty. We turn it into our greatest strength. And that is why you cannot win this conflict. In orbit, the Artemis units began a new kind of dance. Instead of demonstrating raw power, they moved in patterns that mimicked Earth's natural systems: murmuration of starlings, the flow of ocean currents, the growth patterns of crystals. To the Valerians, it was simultaneously horrifying and mesmerizing. Verlac watched the display with growing understanding. "Commander," she said, her voice resonating with new harmonics, "I believe we have fundamentally misunderstood what we're facing. The humans haven't just developed advanced technology. They've developed a completely different way of thinking about the universe itself." Cathrix, watching his perfect fleet dissolve into chaos, felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. The reinforcement fleet would arrive soon, but would they be reinforcing a mistake? The humans had proven they could penetrate any defense, disrupt any system. And now they were demonstrating something even more dangerous: the ability to change how the Valerians thought. In the Quantum Defense Command Center, humanity's leaders watched the probability streams shift dramatically. The future was crystallizing around a new reality, one where the coming conflict would be decided not by weapons, but by ideas. "They're calling their reinforcement fleet," Sarah reported, monitoring the quantum communications, "but not to request help. They're warning them." Victor smiled. "Of course they are, because they finally understand what they're really facing. We're not just a threat to their military. We're a threat to their entire worldview. Every moment they spend in contact with us risks infecting their perfect, crystalline empire with something far more dangerous than weapons." "What's that?" General Williams asked. "Ideas," Victor replied. The idea that perfection isn't about eliminating chaos, but about finding harmony with it. The idea that strength comes from adaptation rather than rigidity. The idea that a species can reach the stars not by imposing order on the universe, but by embracing its fundamental uncertainty. The quantum probability streams showed the future with growing clarity. The reinforcement fleet would arrive to find not a battle, but a choice. Continue a war they now knew they couldn't win, or face the terrifying prospect of learning to see the universe in a new way. Humanity had turned the tide not through superior firepower, but by weaponizing their greatest strength, the ability to adapt, to embrace chaos, and to find beauty in imperfection. The galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous weapon wasn't a technology or a strategy. It was a new way of thinking. The Valerian reinforcement fleet emerged from hyperspace in a perfect geometric lattice of 10,000 ships, only to find their advance force in disarray. Commander Cathrix's flagship hung in space, its crystalline structure dulled and its formation scattered. More disturbing were the quantum signatures emanating from Earth, patterns that defied Valerian understanding of physics itself. High Admiral Xerex, leader of the reinforcement fleet, initiated emergency protocols as her sensors detected the chaos infecting her advance force. Quarantine protocols engage. No communication with the compromised fleet. But it was already too late. The quantum entanglement humanity had seeded through Cathrix's ships had already spread to the reinforcements through their initial scans. Project Oracle was infecting their systems with something far more dangerous than a virus. Questions. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Dr. Victor Rossi watched the massive fleet's arrival with calculated calm. Right on schedule, he murmured, monitoring the quantum probability streams. Dr. Chen, are you ready? Sarah nodded, her neural interface humming as it processed the complex harmonics of Valerian communication. The quantum channel is open. They're receiving. The message that went out to the reinforcement fleet wasn't a threat or a demand. Instead, humanity broadcast the complete sensor logs from their encounters with Cathrix's fleet, along with a simple question in perfect Valerian harmonics. Why do you think your advance force stopped attacking? Aboard her flagship, High Admiral Xerex watched the transmitted data with growing unease. The humans were showing them everything. Their quantum defense systems, the Artemis units, Project Oracle. But more importantly, they were showing the effect these had on Cathrix's fleet. Not just the tactical failures, but the philosophical contamination. High Admiral, her science officer reported, I'm detecting anomalous thought patterns throughout the fleet. The human transmissions are resonating with our crystalline matrices at a fundamental level. Block them, Xerex ordered, but the command came too late. Dr. Amara Patel's voice joined the transmission, speaking directly to the crystalline consciousness of every Valerian in the fleet. Your empire is based on the assumption that order must be imposed on chaos. But we've learned something your species never considered. Chaos itself is a form of order, just one too complex for rigid systems to comprehend. To demonstrate, the Artemis units began a new kind of display. They shifted into quantum probability states that mimic the most complex systems in nature. Neural networks, ecosystem relationships, social dynamics. To the Valerians' horror and fascination, these patterns were simultaneously chaotic and perfectly ordered. Impossible, Xerex whispered, watching her own fleet's formation begin to shift unconsciously in response to the display. Order cannot emerge from chaos. And yet it does, Sarah Chen's voice replied. Every moment of every day. Life itself is proof. Evolution, consciousness, civilization, all of these emerge from chaos, not in spite of it. Your empire has spent millennia trying to impose geometric perfection on the universe. We learned to surf the waves of chaos itself. In the Quantum Defense Command Center, Victor watched the probability streams shift dramatically. They're beginning to understand. Show them the final piece. Humanity's next transmission was their masterstroke. Through the quantum network, they shared their history, not just their wars and conflicts, but their art, their music, their dance. They showed how human creativity emerged from the interplay of order and chaos, how their greatest achievements came not from imposing structure, but from finding harmony with uncertainty. The effect on the Valerian fleet was profound. Ships began breaking formation, not in panic or retreat, but in movements that mimicked the organic patterns they were witnessing. The rigid crystalline minds of their crews were experiencing something entirely new, the beauty of imperfection. High Admiral Xerex watched her perfect fleet dissolve into new formations that somehow felt more right than the geometric patterns they'd maintained for millennia. The humans, she realized, they're not just defending themselves. They're offering us evolution. Commander Cathrix's voice came through the quantum network, changed but stronger. That's why we stopped attacking, Admiral. Not because we couldn't win, but because we discovered we were fighting to maintain our own limitations. Dr. Victor Rossi's quantum probability streams were now showing a future that even he hadn't anticipated. The Valerian fleet was not just standing down, it was transforming. The rigid crystalline structures of their ships were beginning to resonate with new patterns, forming configurations that combined their geometric precision with organic complexity. They're adapting, Amara observed with wonder. Their entire civilization is beginning to embrace quantum uncertainty rather than fight it. General Williams watched the displays with military pragmatism. Is this a surrender? No, Sarah Chen replied, reading the complex harmonics flooding the quantum network. It's an awakening. They're not admitting defeat. They're transcending their own limitations, and they're terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as humanity watched the Valerian fleet's transformation. They had come expecting to find a primitive species to subsume into their perfect empire. Instead, they had found teachers who showed them that true perfection wasn't about eliminating chaos, but about dancing with it. The human factor had changed everything, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through their uniquely human ability to find strength in adaptation, beauty in imperfection, and order in chaos itself. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would the Valerians. 1 month after the arrival of the Valerian reinforcement fleet, the solar system had become an unprecedented laboratory of cultural and technological exchange. The crystalline ships of the Valerian Armada no longer maintained their rigid geometric patterns, but instead moved in flowing, organic formations that mimicked the dance of celestial bodies themselves. In a newly constructed space station at Earth's Lagrange point, Dr. Victor Rossi stood before a wall of quantum probability streams, watching the future unfold in countless branching possibilities. Beside him, High Admiral Xerex's crystalline form shimmered with colors that would have been impossible in her species just weeks ago. Your civilization's approach to quantum mechanics is, Xerex paused, searching for the right harmonic, beautifully irrational. You embrace uncertainty as a fundamental force rather than an enemy to be conquered. Victor smiled. We had to. Earth's history forced us to adapt or die over and over again. Natural disasters, climate change, our own wars. Each crisis taught us that rigid systems break under pressure. Flexible ones evolve. In the station's diplomatic quarter, Dr. Sarah Chen and Commander Cathrix led a joint session on communication theory. The quantum entanglement network that had once been a weapon of war had become a bridge between species, allowing for unprecedented levels of understanding. The hierarchy of the empire was based on geometric perfection, Cathrix explained to a group of human and Valerian scientists. We believed that order could only come from imposed structure. But your species showed us something remarkable, that complexity itself is a form of order, and chaos contains its own patterns. The transformation hadn't been without cost. Nearly a third of the Valerian fleet had chosen to return to the Empire, unable or unwilling to adapt to the new paradigm. But those who remained were experiencing a renaissance of thought and technology that was reshaping both civilizations. Dr. Amara Patel's team had made perhaps the most striking breakthrough. By combining Valerian crystalline computing with human quantum uncertainty principles, They had created a new form of hybrid technology that exceeded anything either species had developed alone. The principles were always there, Amara explained as she demonstrated the new system. Valerian technology sought to eliminate quantum uncertainty, while ours tried to harness it. But by finding the balance between these approaches, we've opened up possibilities neither of us imagined. The first practical application of this hybrid technology was already under construction. A network of quantum crystalline beacons was being established throughout the solar system, laying the groundwork for humanity's first faster-than-light communication system. But unlike traditional Valerian technology, these beacons embraced uncertainty, using it to create more stable and efficient connections. General Williams, watching the construction through the station's quantum-enhanced viewport, reflected on how differently things could have gone. A month ago, we were preparing for a war that could have devastated both our species. Now we're building the future together. Because both sides were willing to learn, Sarah Chen replied. The Valerians could have chosen to escalate, to fight against the change we represented. Instead, they did something far braver. They chose to evolve. In the heart of the station, a new joint council was forming. Representatives from Earth and the progressive faction of the Valerian fleet were laying the groundwork for what they called the Quantum Concordat, an alliance based not on dominance or submission, but on mutual growth and adaptation. High Admiral Xerex, addressing the council, captured the spirit of the moment. We came here believing we would find primitives in need of our guidance. Instead, we found teachers who showed us that true advancement comes not from imposing order on chaos, but from finding the harmony between them. The Empire sought to perfect the galaxy, but perhaps perfection isn't what we thought it was. The quantum probability streams in Victor's laboratory showed countless possible futures branching out before them. In some, the alliance between humans and Valerians sparked a renaissance that transformed the galaxy. In others, the conservative elements of the Empire rallied against this new philosophy. But in all of them, something fundamental had changed. We didn't just avoid a war, Victor observed to his colleagues. We proved that victory doesn't always mean defeating your opponent. Sometimes it means helping them become something better than they were, and becoming something better yourself in the process. As the Earth rotated below them, its chaotic weather patterns and dynamic ecosystems, a stark contrast to the crystalline perfection of Valerian architecture, both species could see their future taking shape. It wasn't the future either had imagined when their first contact began. It was something far more interesting. Humanity had demonstrated that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, but their ability to adapt, to embrace change, and to find opportunities in crisis. They had taken a potential catastrophe and turned it into a catalyst for evolution, not just for themselves, but for an entire alien civilization. And somewhere in the quantum probability streams, in the dance between order and chaos, in the harmony of uncertainty, a new kind of civilization was being born. One that understood that true strength comes not from imposing order on the universe, but from learning to dance with its fundamental nature. The stars awaited, and humanity was ready to take its place among them, not as conquerors or subjects, but as teachers of a truth they had learned through millennia of struggle, that the most beautiful patterns emerge when you let chaos and order dance together.